All right, tell me about it.
I went to work for the ice plant. The man who owned the ice plant owned an oil company, and he was a oil distributor, oil products, and he bought the ice plant, and it had two old diesel engines that powered the thing. One of them was a big uh, upright diesel, about a 50 horsepower, one cylinder, and the other was a horizontal. It was about maybe 15 horse, and it ran a not a compressor. It was a pump that circulated the brine in the freezing floor. Well, the freezing floor was about, I would say, about 18 feet, about 18 feet square, and in the floor was an oil or a brine, and that one compressor um, um, powered a that one motor powered a compressor that kept that kept the brine frozen, not frozen, but down to about between 0 and 15 degrees. And in the floor there were tanks, steel tanks that held 300 pounds of water, which became 300-pound cakes of ice. And there was an overhead device that could be moved to any spot over the floor to lift the 300-pound cakes of ice out and over into a um, place where we put the containers on the side and ran water over them. And as soon as the tanks warmed up above freezing, the cake of ice would slide out down into an anteroom. Mm-hmm. And from the anteroom, we went, the cakes of ice were put in cold storage, and where they could be kept frozen. And my duty was operating the lift and taking the ice out of the floor and dumping them into the anteroom and putting them in storage. Uh, and there was a schedule that included the entire floor, and you had to check off on a timesheet, take out 2 cakes at a time out of the floor, and dump them into the anteroom, and then put the containers back in the floor and fill them with water. And the water was treated so there would be a minimum amount of a collection of um, I don't know what it was. It was like lime that would collect in the center of the cakes, and we had a thing that would suck out the water and the brine and out of the center of the cakes and refill them that center with good, pure, clean water. And this went on. I go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning and worked until 7 o'clock in the evening.
How old were you?
I was um,
Oh, good grief.
No, I was 13. Yeah, I was 13. And I
They didn't have the child labor laws in those days.
no. Matter of fact, I've been paying Social Security since I was 13 years old. And
Oh my gosh.
anyhow, when I had to take care of customers who come in to buy ice, a lot of times, especially on weekends when people are going to have picnics or um, had to have ice to keep things cold for the weekend. And so I would take care of all the customers. And in the summertime, it got so hot in Kansas that we couldn't keep those storage rooms cold enough, really. And we were almost every day we were running low on ice or out of ice because we had so many customers. The temperatures were running around anywhere from 90 to 110 during the day. And I know the second year I was there, um, we lived on on West 6th Street, and the guy who managed the plant lived a block down the street from us. And I'd get up before and have my breakfast and gone before 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd run down the street, and oftentimes I had to wake him up. And he had a he's either 37 or 38 Indian motorcycle. And the Kickstarter didn't work. So he would get on the motorcycle, and I would get behind and give it a push, and I'd jump on behind him, and we get it started that way every morning.
Were you 13?
I was 13. 13, I was 14 that second year. And anyhow, I know at one time we were almost out of ice. We couldn't keep up with the trade, and we couldn't keep it in storage. And we went, fellow who had a trucking business, small-time trucking business. He was a retired farmer, and he had a truck with a covered bed. And we went I went with him. I got off work at 7 o'clock, and he was there with his truck. And I went with him, and we went down to Manhattan, which was about 45 miles, roughly, to the Wareham Ice Company. That's what W-A-R-H-A-M, Wareham Ice Company.
Mm-hmm.
And we would load that truck with 300-pound peaks of ice. We'd drive back to the ice plant, unload it, and put it in storage. And I'd get home about 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
I'd go to bed for a while, get up, eat my breakfast, and go back to work. And I think that summer we made 2 trips to Manhattan to get ice.
Jeez.
And there was a Missouri Pacific railroad spur line that ran right beside the ice plant. And at that time they had what they call iced cars. They were wooden cars, but they would be loaded with fresh fruit and vegetables, and maybe going from one town to another,
Right.
and probably into Topeka or Kansas City with their fresh fruit, and the only way they could keep them cool was with ice, and they had the cars were sealed cars, but they had sliding side doors, and on the top of the cars they had doors that were about 3 feet, 2 feet by 3 feet in openings, and we built a ramp out of 2x6s or 2x12s, I guess, with sides on it, and we had a rope with pulley, and we would pull cakes of ice up to the top of the railroad car, and then we'd use an ice pick and break off about 25-pound pieces of it at a time,
Yeah.
until we got it filled up.
Oh my gosh.
And then when the cars were in motion, they would open those doors so that the air would blow. The door would just part way open,
Right.
and just enough so that they would catch the air, and it would blow down through the ice and circulate through the
Air
car
conditioning.
and out the other opening at the other end. Anyhow,
Wow.
that was a big time operation.
Yes. So how many years did you work with them? 2 years?
2 summers.
2 summers. 13 and 14.
Yeah.
Now, how much could you pick up with the ice?
I used to try to pick up. I wasn't. Let's see. I was not 13. I was 15.
15 when you
and
started
15
there?
and 16.
Ah,
That's
okay.
what it was.
I kind of thought you said 16 before.
Yeah,
and
15
I
and
wondered.
16.
Okay. 13 sounded, gosh.
Because the summer after the summer I was 17.
You were in the Navy.
Well, at the end of the year I was, but I worked for the gravel company driving a truck,
Oh, okay.
and
Well, how much could you pick up with the ice? I thought you said when you were 16 you were...
I could pick up deadlift about 500 pounds.
Jeez.
That's what's wrong with my back today, I think.
Oh, no doubt. I don't think your back is meant to be doing that all the time.
No, I didn't. I did it a few times. Yeah,
Just to see if you could do it, or just because you were working?
Because I just wanted to see how much I could lift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was strong for my age, I guess. But
Yeah. I think you're strong for about any age. For 500 pounds, that's pretty amazing.
The strange thing is, not strange thing, but at the end of summer, I was working at the service station. I was a freshman. No, wait a minute. I worked in the service station before I worked at the ice plant. That's not working out right. 1951. Not 51. 1941. I was working at the service station. It was a Standard Oil Company station.
You were 14 then.
In
41,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I was 14 then. Um, I would get up at early in the morning, and I'd go over to the station. It was about roughly 5 blocks away, and I'd get the key from the owner, and I'd unlock the station and be ready for business. And on December the 7th of 41, I was up early and I was eating my breakfast, and Mom said that Pearl Harbor had been bombed. Well, I didn't know anything about Pearl Harbor, and so she told me where it was, and I went over to the service station, and I went to the man who owned the station, lived next door, and I went up to get the key, and he was still asleep. And I knocked on his bedroom door, and he gave me the key, and I said, "Oh, Pearl Harbor's been bombed." And so he got dressed real fast, and he came down to the station, and he stood there listening to the radio all day.
Wow.
His younger brother was stationed in Honolulu. He was in the Navy.
Oh my gosh.
And
It must have scared him to death then.
yeah, he just listened to the radio all day trying to get some news. Anyhow, his brother came through it okay. But yeah, I worked there, I don't know, for about a year. Didn't make very much money. But
Did you must have made a lot of money for the time, the ice company
well,
though.
let's see. I was making maybe $25 a week, something like that.
That was probably pretty good in those days.
Well, I had a job, but not very many kids had jobs where they could make that kind of money. And then the second year, the man who was managing it had moved, and he wanted the owner wanted me to manage it through the summer, and I told him I didn't want to manage the ice company. But
That's a big responsibility for a boy. You know. How many people worked there?
I did.
I mean, how many people worked there? If you were managing it, would you have been in charge of?
There would have been one person.
Oh, that's not.
That's the way it was. It was a one-person operation. You didn't need 2 people to run an ice plant.
Oh, so okay. So the guy wanted to own it, but
manage it. He just make sure that everything was running okay. He didn't do anything really.
yeah. So he wanted to own it, but wanted you to take charge of running. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you have gotten a raise?
Yeah.
Oh, I would think so. Yeah.
But anyhow, I talked to Mom about it, and she said no, she didn't think it would be a very good idea. And
Mama knows best.
Mama knows best.